I've got a special potion right here. Just
Yeah.
loads of fruits, papaya, ginger, lime.
Nice.
Yeah, secret
I
potion.
should have done that because I'm fasting. But it's
really?
After not a very good night, it's tricky to fast sometimes. You know, you don't feel that much power.
Of course. I think we're live. Are we live? Guys.
Oh, we are live.
Yeah, we are live.
Nice.
How's it going,
I have to mute my phone now. I see you guys here.
Yeah, everyone's in the room. Yeah, no, welcome, guys. It's a pleasure to have you here. We'll wait till everybody gets in the room. We'll give it a couple of minutes, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And we'll jump in. But yeah, how's everything going on your side?
But thanks for coming. Hey, let's see who do we have here. We've got, of course, Eves. We have Fatima, Car Fantasy Wheels. I have Christian Scott. I have Toby Reading, Ibi Ansari, Kai Rayleigh, Jack Montgomery, Hugo Lewis, Andre Alberti, Benny Lane, Christian Scott. Cool. Fuck. We've got some people. More and more people are coming. Michael Velios. I'm not sure how to read this name. Abdi Hakim Abukar Adan. I hope I didn't screw it up.
You've done a better job than me.
Mario de Carvalho, Dylan Butchert, Hamzi Yassin, Manuel, Brandon Simon, Sum Shakib. Awesome. Guys, welcome. Good to have you here.
Guys.
Mark, what's up? My brother from another mother. What's been happening?
I'm good. I'm just making sure that I'm not overgrown like a Wolverine. So I've been keeping it true. How about yourself?
It's good, man. Let's see what's gonna happen after another couple of months of quarantine with this.
I know. A lot of people have been shaving their heads. We saw Ib shave his head. Have you? Did you opt out of that then?
No. So I thought about doing this, and for those of you listening, so to give you the context, last year I went to the Falcon conference, and I gave the example of pushing your comfort zone and reframing how you perceive the reality. So one time last year, I decided to spontaneously shave my head. So I shaved everything, and I looked like a criminal. We're going to link up the picture later, actually. Why not? But I looked like a total criminal, like a street person. But I did it because I wanted to reframe everything, and I wanted to teach myself that I don't need to rely on the external to feel truly confident in myself. And it really fucking worked. So after sharing that story, some people took it to heart, and some people started doing that little experiment themselves. For example, Eep, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've had a few other people do it recently as well, Jimmy. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, because people had been thinking about that from the conference for a while, and they've been kind of mulling it over in their mind for months and months and months and months, and they've just gone, do you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to shave it off. And isn't it interesting how it's a common pattern between a lot of people that do it? They feel like this weight has been lifted off their shoulders. They almost feel liberated. Was that the same for you when the first time you done it, Jimmy?
Yeah, because it's one of those weird things where we get attached to different things, right? We get attached to our external characteristics and things we possess as well, right? So, I mean, you had some really cool cars in your day, right? And you decided to sell some of them. And you know very well that when you have a nice McLaren or you own a Porsche or Mercedes, it's easy to get attached to it to some extent, right? You get used to the idea that you are the guy driving the Porsche. And then when you travel to a location where nobody knows you and you rent Toyota, it feels pretty weird, right? It feels, and even though you may not be materialistic, just enjoy really fast cars, and you perceive yourself to be a very confident person, still there's this weird feeling that something is missing. And that's why I really believe in just resetting your frame of reference by pushing yourself to embrace discomfort. And embracing discomfort doesn't just mean taking ice baths, doing Spartan races and doing crazy workouts and things like that. It also means depriving yourself of things that you normally take for granted, like cutting your hair, right? I mean, if you have nice hair, especially, to get rid of it and look like a criminal for 2 or 3 months, you really have to get in touch with who you truly are, and you have to get all of your self-esteem from within. So for me, when I did that, I never forget, I was in Bali. I went to the barber shop, and initially I thought about cutting just a little bit. And at some point I looked at this guy and I said, you know, just fuck it, just shave everything off, zero. And he looked at me in a strange way. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something in the lines of, but you have really nice hair, you have a lot of it, get rid of it. And it felt like breaking the little rule, right? That if you have something, you just have to cling into it. You're done. You're done. So yeah, man, it's very liberating.
100%. Yeah, I've been thinking about going the other way. So I'm going. I've always wanted to grow my hair.
Oh, really?
So I'm going the opposite way now. So I'm actually going to grow this out now and go full Italian with like the hair going back around the sides. So
okay, yeah. That's clever. So you're going with the flow, right? With the quarantine.
Definitely. We've actually got someone in the chat has done the same thing. Andre. So Andre's in the chat. He's a Falcon student. So let's see. He's in there, I believe.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we've got Andre's grown his hair, and he had a really, really cool story about it. I actually want to share this with you, Jimmy. So when he first told me about this story, this was really interesting because something so simple he applied to growing his hair to discipline. And he thought, do you know what? If I want to achieve goals in my life and I want to do things, then if I can't do something so simple as just letting my hair grow, how can I not commit to my goals? And that really, and he's a very, very young Portuguese guy. And I just thought, wow, that's actually so true. Like something so simple as just growing your hair, because it's easy to think, oh, I'm not really liking how it looks. I'll just cut it. So just staying disciplined and patience. So I love how people can use simple things to attach towards discipline, mindset, and goals, and apply that. So it's awesome to see that. I was just going to ask, Jimmy, do you speak? I know you speak a few languages. Do you speak Portuguese?
Hey, e aí, beleza, irmão? Tudo bom? Fala pouco de português de Brasil. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I learned it while traveling, on the streets of Brazil. But hey, I just want to say something to what you said before, because that's quite interesting. I feel like it's not necessarily about how you challenge yourself. It's about the meaning behind it. That's what just came to my mind. So this guy, Andre, him growing the hair could be something simple, right? Like this may not work for everyone, but it worked for him. So I think what truly matters is the intention behind embracing the awkward, the difference outside of the box. And whatever it is that you decide to do, as long as it works for you and there's the right intention behind it, I think it's a winner. Definitely.
And one thing I was going to mention, Jimmy, for those of you guys, firstly, we've had a few people in the room now, so welcome. It's cool to see you all here engaging and things like that. I can see a lot of the Falcon guys in here, which is awesome to see.
54 people.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, so Jimmy actually spoke at our conference. It's about a year ago now, wasn't it, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much a year. That's flown by as well. So Jimmy done a workshop and was on stage, and he done some really transformational things. And I still remember when you was getting people up on stage that talk us through that trick that you done when you got people scared.
Oh, that was hilarious. So what I did was I really wanted to push everybody's comfort zone, right? And most people are afraid of presenting, whether it's in front of a camera, on a stage. I mean, when you talk to the most people, if you told them, for example, to jump on a live video in front of whatever it is 30, 40, 50, 100 people, they would freak out. When you tell them to get on a stage, the fear is even bigger because you can actually see and feel the people in front of you. But I like to use it as an analogy to the very, very simple fact that your fears can be destroyed. And whenever you look at your fears for too long, they become bigger and bigger and bigger. So you have to face your fears. So I wanted to put them through this very uncomfortable situation. I told them, look, in a second, I'm going to look at the entire audience and I'm going to randomly pick, I don't remember how many people I said, 8 or 10. I'm going to randomly pick a bunch of people and you'll join me on a stage and we will do this really funny experiment and everybody will be presenting in front of the entire audience. Now, if you look stressed, I'm probably going to pick you, right? So I said something in those lines. Don't remember exactly, but essentially I made them believe that if they look uncomfortable, they are more likely to be picked. And then what I did was pretty interesting. So I stood there in silence and I just looked around and I'm like, guys, I'm literally right now, I'm trying to pick a few people. By the way, if I'm not looking at you anymore, it doesn't mean you haven't been picked. I remember faces and people were freaking out. You could hear the pin drop. It was silent. I remember that, right? It was hilarious because people had no idea. And then at some point I just laughed and I said, guys, I'm kidding. I'm not going to pick anybody. I'm not an asshole. And then suddenly this laughter and this, oh, well, okay, thank God he was just kidding. But I wanted to portray a very important point that, everybody is afraid. Everybody is afraid of something, right? And I asked them, what types of emotions did you feel? What did you feel in your body? And then people started sharing. that they felt heart beating faster, that they felt that they were sweating, etc. And the interesting thing was that I feel like people found it more comfortable to share afterwards. It's because they could clearly see that everybody was afraid. And then it makes you realize, well, if everyone is afraid, then suddenly I'm not standing out that much. I'm not the weirdo who is afraid, because everybody laughed and everybody admitted that they were afraid to get on this stage. So now I have, in a way, this permission to be myself. It was very interesting, man.
Definitely. And I think it was really, really cool just to see people recognize that how fearful they can be of things of the unknown. And I think what it teaches us as well is that we become fearful of things that have not even happened yet.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was a great example of it. But I remember all the emotions. So many people came up to me and thought, fuck, I'm so glad I didn't get picked. I really thought he was going to tap me on the shoulder. Because people's fear of public speaking is huge. And I mean, this goes back to the story literally right before we jumped on the live. So guys, before this was the first time that even for myself that I'd spoken on an actual stage, right? And I consider myself someone who's confident. I can speak, I'm fine with that. But naturally at heart, I'm an introvert. Let us know in the chat, by the way, who feels like they're naturally introvert or extrovert. Well, before I came on the stage, me and Jimmy, we was kind of sitting in the back room, and Jimmy's done this time and time again. I mean, you spoke on hundreds, if not thousands of stages in front of so many people. But for me, this was the first time. And when I was sitting there with Jimmy, I was thinking, fuck, I've got to go on this stage now. Even though I'm just talking about my story, it's natural. I still felt my heart just beating and beating. But the thing for me was that I knew I was afraid of it, but I embraced that vulnerability. And all I could visualize was looking forward to after that and visualizing how good it's going to be when it happens. And I remember what you said to me. So what Jimmy done is that he could sense that I had a little bit of nerves. So he quickly got his phone, and it was a Facebook Live, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Facebook Live. So he got his video and he just quickly jumped on the Facebook Live with me and him. And then we just spoke for like 3 minutes. And it was really interesting because that technique alone made my nerves go from right up here to right down here. And then I walked on the stage and then just absolutely smashed it, which was, it was really cool. But again, face your fears. It's a big thing. Really big
and
thing.
It's interesting you mentioning this because, and by the way, you killed that speech. And that's the interesting thing, right? That you felt the nerves inside, but the reason I could see it is because I've been working with people like this, and I can see those subtle things, the subtle giveaways, but most people could never see it. And then when you got on a stage, remember, within 20 seconds, you got into your zone and you fucking killed it. People loved it. But the way it works is, so anybody watching this, you guys can use it, or gals, whoever's watching this, any situation in life, whether you have to deliver a presentation or you have an important business meeting, or whatever it is. So when you face your fears, when you push your comfort zone, it's like with jumping into cold water, right? When you jump into it for the first time, let's say it's 4-degree cold water, you feel freezing cold. You may be shaken, but then you jump again and again and again, and after 5 or 10 minutes, you just get used to the new environment. You don't even feel cold anymore. So have you ever jumped into like really cold water when everybody outside was dressed up? Yeah,
definitely.
So you know those looks on people's faces when you come out and you're just chilling because you feel warm now, and everyone is looking at you. Well, is this guy crazy? Why is he shirtless, chilling on the beach? It's 5 degrees out there, right? But what happens is, so as you keep jumping in, you develop that resistance and you adjust to the new environment. So when you have to do something that's really scary, rather than jumping from total comfort to total discomfort, you want to make this journey smaller, right? So say you have a really important business meeting and you want to negotiate a new deal, and you know there'll be 5 people in front of you, and you're trying to convince them why they should pay you a certain amount of money for whatever it is that you're doing, right? If you just wake up in the morning, go about your day, and get into that gathering, well, your level of discomfort will come from here to here. So the jump is tremendous. It's going to tremendously push you. And it may be too much for you to handle. But if the same day you push your comfort zone little by little before that important meeting, for example, you do Facebook Live, or you talk to that stranger, maybe a very attractive stranger you just saw, and you talk to him or her, whatever you are into, and afterwards you say, hey, why don't you give me your phone number and well, that was pre-corona actually, but why don't you give me your phone number? Let's meet up later on. And you feel your heart beating faster and it pushes you, but you do it. And you do a bunch of those things. Then what happens is from this level of comfort, you keep jumping higher and higher and higher. So when you have that really important meeting here, your level of discomfort doesn't change that much. You adjusted to this new environment, you're warmed up, right? You feel familiar with discomfort. You feel like you can bathe in it. You know what I mean? So this is a really powerful technique you can use anytime you do something. For example, if I get on a stage and I know there will be 100 people in the audience, I imagine that there will be 1,000 people in the audience. If I get on a stage in front of 1,000 people, I imagine 10,000 people. And what happens is, before I get there, because in my mind, I can envision, by the way, we can talk later about visualization, because I know you're big on it. But when I visualize 10,000 people in the audience, that is a stressful situation to be in. So then when I get to the actual stage and I see only 1,000 people, it suddenly feels like a walk in the park. 1,000 people, not a big deal, because in my mind, I already prepped myself for 10,000. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting.
Jimmy, it's really interesting that you've just, because we've never spoken about this, and it's really interesting that you say that, because the exact same thing that you do, and this is more for traders, that I've done with trading the whole time. And I'll give you an example. So we're all attached to money to some way. You know, we have self-esteem and we have limiting beliefs of what we believe we're worth, self-worth, right? And when you're trading, we risk 1% of our account per trade. That's our strategy. So let's say, for example, you've got £100,000. So we will be risking £1,000 per trade. What people tend to do where they have the psychological issues is that they almost talk up the trading account. So instead of actually looking at their risk, they look at the bigger figure. So what they'll do, Jimmy, is they'll say, well, I'm trading £100,000. So they will take on all the emotions of the end figure, when the reality is the end figure isn't actually important. What is important is how much you're risking. So what helped me break through of comfort as I scaled up my trading account, I was able to look at it as, it doesn't matter what the end figure is. All that matters is the figure that I'm risking. And what that did is that would minimize the impact in my mind to help me cope with it mentally. And that has been tremendous for my growth. And that kind of reminded me of what you just said. You would go there expecting, look, 10,000 people. So when there was only almost 1,000, that's already wiped off in your mind. You've minimized the impact so much that you've brought the fear down. It's normal, and you just smash it. So yeah, that's really, really interesting how you've done that.
100%. And actually, so let's ask people in the chat. I see we have 70 people now. Awesome, guys. Thank you for joining. More and more people are joining. So I'm curious to hear about one fear that you managed to overcome. So Sheris, let us know about one fear that you used to experience, right? And you embraced that challenging situation. You faced it head on, just to realize that it wasn't actually that scary once you did it. Post a comment, let us know. By the way, just so you guys know, so we are talking here, two of us, we really want to be fully engaged. For that reason, we are not spending too much time on the comments now, but we want you to know that we will be responding to every single comment later on. Okay, so please, any questions, post comments, let us know. And Mark, so I'm curious, actually, speaking of fear, in this crazy Corona situation where just a month ago, many people brushed it off as just a little more than a flu. Now we have over 1.5 million cases, plus who knows how many million of cases that we don't even know about. And I see that there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty. I see that there are lots of extremes of people either kind of flying out there in the clouds thinking, oh, we just have to be positive and the world will be a better place, right? And then you have the other extreme of people putting their heads in the sand, panicking, and like really just watching news 10 hours a day. So there's lots of fear, there's lots of uncertainty. How is it for you, man? How are you managing this? I know you have parents who are a bit older. How do you manage this situation?
It's a good question. To be honest, Jimmy, right at the beginning, I would say I was one of those people that laughed it off at the beginning, if I'm completely honest. I just saw it as, you know, this is in China, this doesn't affect me. I highly doubt with the things that we have in place that this will come over to the UK. You know, having not lived or being present in a period like this, it's so unnatural. It's not normal to experience. So it kind of didn't feel like it's even possible. So I laughed it off at the beginning a little bit. And as it became more and more present, I still didn't dive into the fear, because I also believe that that is what they want in that same place as well, that, you know, that they want that, because the more that the media does that, there is a level of control. But rather than going too into the conspiracy side of it, it was more so because I'm sure there's been enough 5G on London Real for I would imagine. But the whole point for me was making sure that I don't bury my head in the sand, but also don't go into the part of what you said where my head is so in the clouds that you almost ignore the fact that it is a virus, it is affecting people. And regardless of the situation, I have parents that are not well. My dad, as you know, he's not very well, not very healthy in that sense. So for someone like him to even get the flu is quite fatal. So that can't be messed around with. So for me, it's more so what I've learned, and this is a really good lesson of how it's helped me, is that when I was younger, I was used to going to the hospital every 3 months, 4 months. So I was used to being that kind of growing up very quickly and being almost the shoulder for my mum to lean on, because I didn't have the opportunity to kind of express emotions because my dad was going from hospital all the time. So I had to be, you know, this 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid that is either going to go into panic, watch my mum panic, or be that kind of leadership as a young kid, take the phone and think, right, something's not fucking right and he's having a stroke. So I need to pick up the phone, ring the ambulance and be calm and be there for my parents. So I've kind of almost been programmed in to learn that behavior from like a 7-year-old to then 8, 9, 11. So as a 15-year-old, I've gone through a lot of things that when things are quite panicky and everybody's worried, I naturally go into my default assertive kind of mode where it's, I don't go into panic. I go into the opposite of like a calm, don't worry, everything's good, everything's fine, and I'll deal with the situation, because that's what I've been used to as a kid, to deal with kind of pressurizing situations. And I think it actually affected me for a while because I wasn't able to express my emotions until later. So as you can imagine, as a young kid, I'm almost suppressing those emotions to make sure that my parents are okay, and then I can express those emotions after. So it was really interesting. So when this kind of pandemic came around, I thought, what's the situation going to be at home? My mum's going to be panicking. She's going to be worrying all the time. And my dad's not in the best state. So what do? I need to be calm, concise, and make sure they've got their supplies. And I just focused on what I can control. I can't control if it spreads here and there, but what I can control is boosting my immune system, boosting my parents' immune system. What I can control is limited exposure with their outside world, so they've got their supplies. So for me, I kind of just went into the default setting. So that helped me a lot.
Dude, that's a really powerful story. And I suppose this made a man who you are right now. That leadership, I mean, leadership learned early on, 7, 8 years old, that's ridiculous. But it makes sense, right? It's while you're talking about it, I thought, I don't know, for some reason I had a flashback from surfing. And I remember one time when the waves were really big in Gran Canaria, really, really big. And I felt a bit of anxiety inside. I'm like, I don't think I can go out there. But you know what I do when I feel this? I usually go after it. And it took me ages to get into the water, even longer to go through the waves to the other side because they were just smashing me. And then I remember that I managed to catch a really nice big wave. They're like literally 3-meter waves, like fucking crazy. So I caught a wave, but then I went so far to the left side, not realizing, wait a second, that's the rocky side. There are those rocks, those boulders underneath the water. So I got there, of course, at the end, I got wiped out because these were those crazy waves where at the end, they just close out fully. And so, I mean, unless you're pro, you'll be wiped out at the end. So I tried to get out of the water, but I couldn't because the waves were so big and the currents were so strong. The water was pulling me back in, but then the wave would crash me. So I was stuck in this whirlpool, in this kind of washing machine type of situation. And I remember that I started panicking at some point because I'm thinking, I'm being pushed even more to the left, closer towards the rocks. I'm stuck in this fucking whirlpool. I may lose my board. I'm getting smashed and I can feel my breathing, right? And I realized that I literally think I'm gonna die. And that's when I had to calm myself down, like literally mentally slap myself in the face, just shut the fuck up, get back into present moment, don't panic because you're gonna fucking die. try to breathe, assess the situation, and just try to slowly, smartly get out of the water. And I managed to do it. And I think this is a good analogy for what's happening in many different realms of life. For example, right now, like whenever there's this feeling that, oh my God, this situation is insurmountable, and you want to panic and you feel like there is no light at the end of the tunnel, you just have to pause and you have to recalibrate, right? And you have to get in touch with your emotions. First of all, I feel like you have to accept your emotions, forgive yourself for feeling certain emotions like fear and panic, but then recalibrate and just calmly assess the situation and the right action plan, right? Panic never brings anything good. Same with trading, right? If you start panicking, if you go crazy, if you act emotionally, you'll get wiped out. And I think whether it's surfing, trading, any of those situations could be a good analogy for what's happening right now. I feel like because of those extremes, people are not really utilizing the potential of the situation. And when I say potential, I don't mean it in a sense where, make money on the crisis. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about identifying opportunities that each one of us has right now. And there are different opportunities. Everyone has different set of circumstances. For you, the opportunity could be, and I know this is actually true, get physically fit, really double down on just setting powerful goals for becoming a beast, becoming ripped, becoming, getting into best shape of your life. For a guy like me, it's writing a book where I'm obsessing on it every single day. For someone else, it could be, setting up first online business or a YouTube channel or doing a blog or maybe learning meditation. But there's always some opportunity in any situation. I feel now, because we are on a lockdown, it's a good opportunity for everyone to re-examine your life, who you are, what you want from your life, to focus on gratitude, to focus on compassion, and then ask yourself a very simple, crazy, but also powerful question. What could I do in the next few months to make those months the best months of my fucking life? And unless you're really sick now, unless your family members are really sick, if you ask yourself this question, you will come up with some answers. So actually, let me ask you, so what about you, man? What could you do like next few months to make those months the best months of your life? How would you?
That's good. I think
and for the audience as well. So guys, anybody watching this, please post a comment, let us know as well.
Definitely. I think, like you said, you made some really good points, Jimmy. I think I've been thinking about this a lot. What kind of individual? Ask yourself the question: what kind of individual are you going to be after COVID-19? So when this kind of blows over, and I pray that all your families, everyone's healthy, and we go straight through this. That when you come out on the other side, what kind of individual are you going to be? Are you going to be the person that just watched the news 10 times a day? Are you going to be the person that just focused on the negative? Or have you realized what is truly important to you? Because what you said is really crucial. We had a meetup the other day, an e-meetup, Jimmy. And what was really interesting to me was a few comments. And I asked people, how has this kind of situation made you feel? And they said, to be honest, the G-Wagons and the Ferraris have gone out the window. They're not important to me anymore. And isn't it interesting how when stuff like this happens, you realize what is the most important thing? And I think if you're a trader, business entrepreneur, whatever it may be, I think it's going to help people figure out that online business or whatever business you want to create. Why are you creating it? What kind of lifestyle do you want? What is actually truly important to you? And I think that's going to help. And it's even got me reflecting as well, like you said. So to answer your question, essentially, the fitness goal has been huge for me. And I've kind of used this period of time I've just added in the bleep test. So I've just added in the bleep test for accountability into my fitness regime. I've ordered gym equipment, which is going to arrive on Tuesday. So I've got a home gym that's going to be installed in the pool house, which is going to be, I can't wait. So that's going to be really good. And then what I'd done is I thought I can either do two things. I can either make an excuse and say, I'm not going to work out until the gym equipment's there, right? Because the gym, everything's been delayed, all the orders. So I'm not going to work out. Or I found this program where I can do everything that's body weight. So I don't need anything. So I used that. I knew the default mind was going to kick in and say, Mark, wait until the equipment's there and, you can work out. But instead I thought, no, fuck that. I'm going to purchase this for accountability and I'm just going to do body weight exercises. So I've been doing it every single day. I've been playing basketball an hour a day. I've been doing the bleep test every day. So I dropped from 17 kilos to now 98. So I've dropped 9, and that's the first original part. So it's not
nice.
It's not going to happen like 9 kilos constantly like that all the time, but it made me realize, you know, with the right focus, the right shift, stop making excuses and just get it done. And that's how I've been doing it. So for the next 2-3 months, for me, the question that you asked, I can already visualize myself, and I'm taking like progression photos anyway. I can already visualize what I'm going to look like after, because I just know I'm just doing it. I've got a plan, I'm focused, and I feel so connected behind the intent of doing it. So that's one of the biggest things for me, because anything else in life, I think I've shared this with you before, financially, mindset, all these things, I've been able to level myself up for the last 9 years and be surrounded by some super successful people. Fitness, I've always gone through a self-sabotage cycle. And I made a decision. I was like, no longer is that happen. No longer is that going to happen no more. I'm not using that as an excuse, and I'm going to break it. And I feel I have. So I'm excited. The next 2 months is going to be, and I wanted to put that out there now, so then I can revisit it, because it's good accountability.
Oh, dude, I love it. I love it. Congratulations, by the way. This is amazing. And if you guys can resonate, also let us know, post comments. And yeah, let's keep this guy here accountable. Dude, this is gonna be epic. And I think accountability, public accountability, is one of the best things you can do for yourself. Definitely. When you set your goals. For example, I'm writing a book now, and you can't see it, but there is a whiteboard over there, and I have dates. And I initially set myself target 250 words per day, but I started going way over that target. So now I figured, fuck it, I'm just gonna do at least 1,000 words every day. And so I have the dates in there, and I have to make sure that in red, I put the number of words every single day. So last night was actually pretty tough. Yesterday was a busy day. And then roughly at midnight, maybe 30 past midnight, when you're already switching off, right, to finish the day, I realized I haven't written anything. And I felt this strange feeling of, fuck, it's gonna be tough because it's late, and yeah, I'm just not in the right state. But again, as I always say, I mentally slap myself in the face. And by the way, sometimes I do it physically. I kid you not. Sometimes you have to literally slap yourself in the face. I sat down and I said to myself, I'm just going to write. And what's very interesting is that I did over 1,000 words. I did 1,033 words. And it went pretty smoothly. So it's funny to see how sometimes you feel certain emotions before doing something, and you think that those emotions determine how you will feel doing that thing, but it's often not the case, right? Once you start doing what you were procrastinating on, you start feeling amazing. And accountability really helps. One of the reasons why I did it is my personal accountability with that whiteboard. I don't want to see a gap in the board. I don't want to see 9th of April, right, and nothing in there. I'm not doing this to myself, because I lose trust to myself, right? And it's very important to keep building more and more trust that you have for yourself. But also I have an accountability group online. I have a few of them. So I know that there are people who expect to hear from me how many words I've written. And I know that if I don't post my result, they'll ask me, hey, what happened? Did you slack? How many words have you written? And I just can't put myself in a situation where I tell them that I haven't done anything, because I committed. And you know, I'm the type of guy, if I commit, I do it. You have to be the man of your word, or the woman of your word. And I think that's why accountability can be tremendously powerful. And I mean, now we have 69 people in the chat. I mean, imagine you have 69 people, and you know that when you commit to something in front of all of those people, each one of those individuals that you value, that you respect, will put that extra positive pressure on you. You don't want to tell each one of those people later on that you haven't done something you committed to do. And so this is powerful. And actually, I have to share with you something real quick, because this is quite interesting. I always wanted to jump from a plane, but I always felt this fear deep inside. So whenever I would see a skydiving center, I would rationalize in my head why I can't do it right now. One time I went to Hawaii, and I actually parked next to the skydiving place. And I looked at it, and I didn't leave the car. I just stayed in the car. And I was just pondering, hey, should I do it? Maybe I shouldn't do it. And then I realized, wait a second, I already paid for the car rental, so I may as well make the most of it and not lose the money. So I should just travel around the island instead. what a stupid excuse, right? But I kept doing it. And then one day I woke up and I realized what I was doing. And that's when I went online. I booked the skydive. I paid for it in full, in advance. And I made a post on Facebook and I told everybody what I'm going to do. And then I started getting those comments, hey man, fingers crossed, let us know. And because I had the date, when the date came, the day before, I was shitting myself. I never forget the day before I was sitting there. I was like, dude, like I'm going to be jumping off a plane. I couldn't believe. But because I told everybody, people were messaging me, dude, your big day tomorrow. Come on, man, you've got it. How can I go back and tell everyone I didn't do it? There's no way, right? So use it, use accountability. In fact, if you want to do, if there's something you really want to do in the next few months, post a comment, let everyone know. I know that many of you guys, you're part of the same community here going live right now. Many of you are part of FalconFX. So people know who you are. So use that accountability and let us know what the fuck it is that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, spot on. Jimmy, do you know what I really like about what you've done over these years? You know, you've grown from, you know, you shared a lot about your story as like a shy kid from Poland, you know, in just a very, very small town to where you are today, is that you embrace the vulnerability as almost so normal for you. You're very aware of, if you feel nervous about something, you don't hide away from it. You can admit it to yourself. And it kind of reminds me a little bit like David Goggins. So hopefully you see that as a compliment.
Thank you.
But it really reminds me of that you don't hide away from it. You recognize when something, right, I'm fucking scared of this, but that's fine. I kept my word and I'm going to get it done regardless. And yeah, I really admire that about you. And I think that's something that, guys, everybody in the chat, that you can learn from that. Being able to be more self-aware and embrace your vulnerabilities. Remember, there's strength in vulnerability, true strength. When you can just be honest and authentic about how you're feeling. Like, I love it. That's something that how I've lived my life for years. And I've always found strength in it, where it's really interesting how a lot of people see that as weakness. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, Jimmy, why you think people have those fears of, they find it hard to embrace how they're feeling and they won't let those emotions out, when that's actually where the growth happens.
Well, it's quite interesting, right? Because on the one hand, as we walk through life, so many of us, actually all of us to some extent, look around trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to get validation and approval of other people, right? So what can I do so other people don't disapprove of me? And this is all hardwired in our brains. I mean, back in the day, in the tribal times, if you got rejected by your tribe, you were fucked, right? I mean, you can't survive by yourself. So you couldn't go too much out of the box. Of course, now the times have changed. If you go out of the box, you're more likely to succeed, actually, but we still have this old wiring. So it's interesting because we try to get that validation and approval. We don't want to stand out too much. Then naturally, it is difficult to admit our weaknesses, to admit when we feel unsure of ourselves. But then what we fail to realize often is that other people are experiencing exactly the same situation. So as you walk into the room, and actually remember the conference, right? FalconFX in London. How many people we had? A couple of hundred, like 200 people, maybe 250, something like that. So you walk into the room and you can see some of those fresh faces, people who have never been to a conference before, and they walk in trying to act confident, but you can sense that there's a shaky foundation. You can sense that they are unsure of themselves, but they try to put on the mask. So then another person walks in and is also trying to put on the mask to live up to that standard. And what I noticed that at that conference, at some point, we all dropped the fucking masks, right? We all decided, and partially also because when you got on stage, you were very open, sharing your vulnerabilities. When they see, you know, the founder and the CEO of the entire community sharing vulnerabilities, suddenly this gives people the permission to be themselves. But once you drop the mask, you connect with people at a human level. And what people often fail to realize, and I mean, I've done this so many times, unfortunately, is that when you are striving for perfection, when you are striving for always getting approval and validation, even if you manage to make it happen to some extent, even if you seem to be almost bulletproof, people cannot relate to you. They cannot resonate with you. There's no connection. They look at you and they see somebody who is better than them, right? And so we connect with people at a human level. You ever notice, paradoxically, Dan, that when you talk to someone and you mention something bad that happened to you, like, hey, my mom just got sick, or, you know, I feel really bad because I had a breakup and I don't know how to handle it. Interestingly and paradoxically, that person starts opening up as well, right? But somebody has to start. Somebody has to be a leader in any situation. And you can't choose to be that leader. You could either choose to wait for someone else to drop the mask, or you can be the one who ends up dropping the mask first to let people in. And every time you do that, you will let people in. There will be some occasional assholes, right? But that's okay. Don't worry about those people. Don't worry about them, right? But the vast majority of people, when you drop your mask and you are your true self, you're authentic, they'll resonate, they'll open up and just create this beautiful cocktail of authenticity.
Yeah, I completely agree, Jimmy. That's something that we're really big on in Falcon. Like you said, that you saw that after that mask was dropped, it was gone. And it was almost like a brotherhood, if you like.
Yeah.
In the sense that everybody is rooting for each other. And that's really what we've built in the community as well, because the way I see it from my core values, in a world that can be quite evil and quite, you know, dark at times, that there has to be people out there that are a bright light. There has to be people out there that do want to do good for others, that are authentic. And I remember a quote, a Gandhi quote actually, which I never really understood growing up, which it was, be the change that you wish to see in the world. And I kind of took that as, yeah, like I get it, but I kind of don't get it. And then when I started to realize that, well, why can't that change be me? In an industry where it's very egotistical, you know, we're around money a lot, high figures, where it's easy for people to get quite arrogant and things like that. And I didn't like that part of it. And I thought, you know what? I will be the change that I wish to see, which is why I created the Falcon community in the first place, because I know that there's true strength in vulnerability. There's true strength in having a community of like-minded people. And when you leave your ego at the door, some amazing things happen. And we've seen that for years. I mean, you've witnessed it. You've done some incredible work. I mean, the amount of people that come up to me after when you've done that workshop of how empowered they felt, it was huge. So no, Jimmy, I thank you for that. And anybody in the chat that you was at the conference, you know what I'm talking about. And for those of you that don't know Jimmy as well, so you've had over, was it 130,000 students now?
Just hit 140.
Yeah, 140. That's crazy.
Extremely grateful, man. Extremely grateful.
Yeah, and congrats, big congrats. How does that feel, knowing that you've impacted, and probably a lot more? This is just of what you know, so that's probably going into the millions without even realizing. But statistically, 140,000 students, and you've changed their life from your values. How does that make you feel as an individual?
It's very interesting. So, you know, it will be easy now just to say, oh, it feels amazing, feels great, but to give you the real answer, how it feels, it's been a crazy journey. There has been a point, I have to admit, where I couldn't feel the number, because the number keeps going up, right? And couldn't really feel it. It was just a number, the way you see a number on your bank account, right? You can't fully, at some point I stopped feeling it. And what I needed to do was to dive deep into some of the things that people say to me, right? So testimonials and private messages, and then checking the reviews. And only then I felt the true impact, right? When you see a picture of a person, first name, second name, and a real story of that person and the impact, that's when you really feel, that's when you can make sense of the number. And I have to tell you, sometimes when I look at this number, like literally yesterday hit 140,000. And I'm thinking, fuck, 140,000 people, that's crazy. And at the same time, because I've been trying to level up also the people I deal with, I realized that there's so much more I can do. And rather than, it's very interesting. I guess this happens in many realms of life, right? Once you hit the targets you set for yourself, you realize that there's a wholly different reality out there. There's new reality you can create. And why stop at hundreds of thousands if you can impact tens of millions, right? I had a pleasure of meeting some amazing people recently, and people who have, you know, millions, tens of millions of readers, followers, viewers, and you just wondering, fuck, what is the limit to the impact you can have, right? So it's extremely inspiring. I feel grateful to live in those times. And anybody watching this, you can have a huge impact. Like whether you realize it or not, anybody watching this, you can have a huge impact. And you could do it for a variety of ways. But we live in a world that's so interconnected that is just incredible what you could do, right? If you have a skill, you're an expert in something, or you overcame some type of pain or trauma, whatever the fuck it is, you can share it with the world. And I know that when you start entertaining this idea, that bunch of different fears that are coming to you from different directions. What if my content will not be good enough? Hey, but there is already a lot of stuff about this topic. Why would I create even more? And a bunch of things coming to your mind. But if you just focus on the message you want to share, and you focus on the impact and the change you want to see in the world, then you just push yourself to do it. And fuck, it's tremendous, right? You can make a YouTube live video, or you can make post an article, or make Instagram live, and you could literally reach people from 50, 100, 150 different countries. It's incredible. Back in the day, when I think we fail to realize it often, that 40 years ago, if you wanted to impact people from all over the world, you would have to get qualification and become either a teacher or a professor. And it would be an extremely long process. And you would still be able to impact people just in your city, limited number of people in a classroom, right? And if you wanted to impact people globally, you would have to write a book. You couldn't self-publish back then. You would have to get a traditional publisher, extremely difficult, publish a book, and make it into a bestseller that will be translated. Now, how much work that is, that's the equivalent of creating a $200 million company right now, right? And so what used to be so difficult, now you can just do it with a few clicks and a will and some discipline, right? It's incredible, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think it is. And that just goes to show you the times that we're living in. And I completely agree, Jimmy. And I think what this needs to teach us all is that of how many great resources that we have. So for anybody, especially in the trading space, we often get disheartened, Jimmy, when we're 6 months into something. This could be in business and trading and anything, and we're not where we want to be. And then we get upset with ourselves that it's been 6 months, I'm not here, or it's been a couple of years and I'm not here. And not realizing that how much easier and streamlined it is. Like, fuck, you get to work from the comfort of your own home, and you get to work on yourself day by day. But yet you can either complain because you're not where you want to be, or realize the time that you live in. Like, you're so lucky that you're almost born in this area with what you just said. Like, before, it was very difficult. You wouldn't be able to just do things like that. So I think it's important to recognize, with this stuff that's going on, combining almost this COVID-19, combining the fact of coming from a point of gratitude, of focusing on what is really important to you, and realizing that you have a very rare opportunity to work on yourself every single day. And you can literally do that and connect with people with a click of a finger is huge. I think that matched with patience will be massive. But one topic I wanted to move on to, Jimmy, which I think is really interesting. You've kind of got to where you are now. Has visualization been a big thing for you? Because we hear it a lot with successful people. We've all heard the story of Jim Carrey with the $10 million check, Dumb and Dumber. Like, that kind of stuff fascinates me so much, because I love it. Did you visualize yourself, when you was not even speaking English, when you just speak Polish, right? How did you see yourself back then till now? Have you always thought about stuff like this?
100%. 100%. This is powerful. And anybody who says that visualization is bullshit clearly hasn't done it. Now, what I want to say right away, I think this is important to kind of intro this, is that I do believe in visualization, but I also believe in creating smart systems and embracing hard work, the discipline, dedication, pushing your comfort zone. If you just visualize, it's not going to help you, right? You have to do the right things. But if you visualize, if you figure out where you want to be, and then you go backwards to design the right plan of action, things become more simple. Actually, I have a board over there, and one of the things that I have in there says 100,000 copies bestseller. And then it says on the right side, I'm a best-selling author, because I have 2 huge whiteboards and I put everything in there.
Love that.
I put all types of different things in there, but when I see this, I'm like 100,000 copies. First time I wrote it, felt unreal, but because I have it in there and I've been visualizing this, I've been attracting some tremendous mentors. I just did online training with Talker Max. So Talker sold 3.5 million copies of his books, and he helped a ton of authors to sell their books. And I visualized that moment, being able to also work with him, learn from him. And interestingly, he did this live training. By the way, it's a free training, so you guys should join. It's called Scribe Media, his company. He did free training where he teaches you how to write a book. So I did that. And it was tremendous. It was tremendous, right? So now when I look at 100,000 copies, because I've been having it there for such a long time, and I've been visualizing this moment where I get notification that I sold 100,000 copies, now it actually starts feeling more real. And because it feels more real, I can push myself more to sit down on my ass and write when I don't feel like doing so, right? I can push myself to get the blurbs for my book, right? The quotes from different people. I push myself to figure out the entire strategy. So visualization is powerful. And what I believe in is that, I think Jim Rohn said it for the first time, that if you don't have a vision for yourself, if you don't have goals, you're like a yacht without a sail, right? Wind can be strong, but it doesn't really matter. You don't even know where you want to go. So you have to know where you want to go. You have to have your direction. So what I like to start with is the grand vision, without thinking about all the minutiae, all the little things. Grand vision, where you want to be several years from now, 2, 5 years. Ask yourself, if anything is possible, where do I want to be? And then once you define a very compelling vision where anything is possible, right? Then you go backwards and you ask yourself, okay, so if I want to get to that vision, what do I need to accomplish in the next 24 months? So then you design goals for the next 24 months, and then you go backwards even further. So, okay, so if I want to accomplish those things in 24 months, what do I need to do in 12 months from now? And then 3 months from now? And then eventually you design action plan for every day, the habits you have to develop and the habits you have to destroy, right? So if part of your vision, like Mark, you, for example, part of your vision is being extremely physically fit, right? You want to be ripped, doing ice baths, running 10K whenever you feel like, banging out 50 push-ups, right? If that's part of your vision, and you go backwards, you kind of backtrack to figure out the right habits. Exactly. When you have to when you're making that choice in the evening, whether you're going to eat an avocado with 2 free-range eggs and a bit of olive oil, or you're going to make that because you see you have that, like maybe some frozen pizza from back in the day, you want to make that pizza, man, because you know that based on your vision, there's a strong habit you're developing now of eating healthy, and there's no fucking way you're eating pizza. But if you don't figure out the vision, if you don't figure out the action steps, if you don't figure out the habit, it's very easy to get lost along the way. And then visualization comes into play. Once you have that vision, visualization will help you to make everything more vivid, to make everything real. Your brain doesn't see the difference between what you visualize and what's actually happening. For example, before I get on a stage, I can visualize me being on that particular stage, and I know from my experience that once I get on that stage, it feels like it already happened. It's incredible. It's just incredible. And one little exercise anybody can do right now, it's pretty weird, but actually works. Like, visualize going to the kitchen and making coffee for yourself, making a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. And when you visualize like 20 times and then you go to do it, it's gonna feel weird. It's gonna feel like, it's strange, but it's gonna feel very flowy. Like you are doing it like someone else is controlling your body. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's incredible, man. What about yourself? So what is, I know you're big on this, right? So I'm curious to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely. I think you make some really good points there, that you've done that unconsciously, constantly visualization of making it. And how good does it feel? It really does feel real. And what I like about what you said, Jim, is that the mind doesn't know the difference. The mind does not know the difference. And that is what is the most powerful thing, which is, some people believe in visualization, some people don't. Remember, visualization without action is delusion. So you need action across to it. So visualization has been huge for me. And, growing up in a very average, low income area, I always visualized a bigger vision for myself. And I've spoken about this on many things before, but Jimmy, what I used to do is that, and I don't think it's good longer term, but people can use it in different ways. I used to let fear drive me. So I used the fear. So originally I used to walk around the streets And I actually used to walk around with Ibs actually. So me and Ib, we used to, literally 30 seconds from each. And we used to walk around talking about business all the time, 12, 15 years old. And I used to look around and think, this can't be it. I was like, fuck this life, this can't be it. And the fear of having an average life was so potent and strong for me that I thought, no, something's got to change. And I let it push me and push me and push me. And what happened was that I saw some decent success from doing that. But what really leveled me up to a completely whole other realm was then going into more of an abundance mindset. I no longer was living in this, right, I'm just so scared of living a crap life that I'm going to be successful. It was then, I feel successful. I am worthy of this. And I kind of shifted into that abundance mindset. And this was when I started to use techniques of visualization. So what I used to do, very simple, just to start it off, was going to the dealership, to the car places, and kind of sitting in that car and just like, feeling the leather, really feeling like it's real. I would a very old school kind of Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Dan Pena. I would do that, right? And I'd feel amazing. I would do it the same thing. I used to feel really frightened about going to view a house. And I would think, well, I can't afford that house. Like I don't even have 50,000, 100,000 for a deposit for a house. And I thought, like, cut that little voice out. Let's go and do that. So I would almost go and pretend that in my own head, that I can afford that house. So I would go and view a house and I'd walk around it and be like, yeah, this is nice. And I would ask really specific questions as if, no, this is my house. That I'm going to collect this at a later stage, but it has to be right for me. And what started to happen was when I started to do something so basic like that, like going to the car dealership, going to the house that I know deep down that I don't actually have the money for right now, but I know that if I put myself there, it's going to feel smaller and I'd minimize the impact in my mind. I started to do that. And then I started to draw my vision out and do what you said. You said you start with a grand vision. I do exactly the same thing. I look at my life and think, over the next 2 years, how do I want to live? What house do I want to be in? What car do I want to drive? What relationships do I want to have? What income streams do I want to have? What's my health going to look like? What is my routine going to look like? I look at the vision of what is the ideal life for me, and then I reverse engineer, as what you just said. You work backwards as to, don't worry about all the little finer details right now. Just get clear on your vision and your why, and then everything else, you just persist because you love what you do. So that's been big for me. And a goal that I achieved recently, which is what I spoke about, was the water fountain goal. And this, you could not make this up, guys. So I think I've shared this with some of the people in the community. So I was looking for a property for a long period of time, and it had to meet a lot of boxes. I had to tick off a lot of things. And in Google SketchUp, I was drawing out the house, and Roxanne, my partner, she was actually helping me with it, and she drew quite a bit of it as well. And I looked at it, I was like, this looks incredible. It has a pool house, swimming pool, tennis court, a place for my parents, some more stuff. And then I was like, something's missing. So what's that? I was like, a water fountain. So then I drew the water fountain in SketchUp in like 3D. And I drew this big water fountain right in the middle, exactly where it is. And I was like, now it's complete. So then we started looking online for like months and months and months, and viewing like hundreds of houses, and not one of them, and this is like high-end houses, and you'd expect them to have this, and not one of them had a water fountain. And then my brother, right, he calls me up and he says, Mark, he was like, the house is for sale. And I was like, what house? He was like, the house. And I was like, can you be more specific? He was like, fucking house is for sale. And he was just like, the big house. And I was like, what, that house? And I still don't know what it looks like inside, right? So I'm just like, I take his word for it, because this is like a unique property and everything. And then I just say to Roxanne, we're going to go view this house on Saturday. And it was like 2 days away. So we go then. I've got zero expectation as to what this looks like. I just know it's going to be nice, right? I go there and we go up the driveway. The gates open up and we just go in this driveway, and I'm seeing these beautiful, park-like gardens. It's lovely. Like, everything looks amazing. And as you go around towards the house, it kind of turns around, and then I just see this big water fountain just glowing and just like streaming for the water fountain. You see like the birds on top of it. And I look at it and I thought, you couldn't make this shit up. You literally, you couldn't make this up.
Yeah.
And I want to just, for you just can't see as well. So,
oh, dude, that's awesome.
I don't know if you can, let me know if you can see that right there.
Oh yeah. That's
hilarious. So basically, like I pulled up, and then and I saw it there, and I just thought, do you know what?
Sick.
Wow. Just I viewed so many places, and when I saw it, I just said, look, we have to get it. I was like, it has to happen now. Like, this is the one. And, you know, and I went through every little detail of the house, and it ticked all the boxes. But it's weird, right? Because I've been looking for so long, and I had no idea whatsoever that this would be the house. But yet when I came here, I saw it, and it was almost like a sign for me. And I think a lot of people that listen, some people will be like, oh, right, so you drew the water fountain and then it came true. That's not the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that when you really want something in your life and you are specific in detail, it's like the universe gets out of your way and you move towards these goals and they start to come into your life. And I've noticed if you can back that mind with action and you visualize it as if it's already there, some powerful things happen. And I'm sure I could share at a later date how complicated it was to even get this house. But yeah, from a visualization perspective, it was massive. So it's I'm living in it right now. So it's very fresh and yeah, powerful feeling.
Great reminder, dude. That's a great reminder every day, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Man, I can resonate fully with what you said. Good example is when I was in Goldman Sachs back in the day, and very quickly, I'm grateful for the experience because I learned a lot, but I knew it wasn't something for me. I knew I couldn't work for a big corporation. And simple way to determine it for me was to look at people who were 10 years ahead of me and just asking myself, would I want to live that life? And the answer was, fuck no. No, like there's no way. And I remember one day I it was kind of an impulse. I think I got pretty drunk. I wrote an email to my friend Gianluca, and Gianluca, if you're watching this, then yeah, man, that was the one. I wrote an email where I shared with him my ideal future life in excruciating detail, like everything, how I want to live my life, and said, look, man, I'm gonna be waking up by the fucking beach, and I'm gonna open my laptop and see how many people I helped, and I'm gonna do this, and I defined everything, and I was just free flowing in terms of what I wanted. Interestingly, a few years later, this became reality, and this has been my reality for the last 7 years. Now, some people may say, well, is it one of those weird love attraction type of situations where, again, you close your eyes and then you wrote it down and it just happened? Of course not. There's lots of shit on the way. Before that vision became reality, to give you just some examples, I got wiped out, broke. I went through ridiculously tough breakup when I felt like shit for months and months and months, right? I went for a lot of weird things on the way, but it became reality because when I wrote that email, it made me feel so good. I knew that this is what I need, this is what I want, and I kept redefining that vision. I kept thinking about it, and I kept looking for mentors, reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, for example, awesome. People like that, and I realized that's what I want. So when times got tough, it was easier for me to persevere because I knew what's waiting on the other side, right? I knew the prize in that game. So you need to know your prize. Because if you don't know it, if you don't have that end goal, if you don't have that compelling vision, why would you work your ass off? Like example I shared before from last night, why would I make myself write a damn book after midnight when I'm tired, unless the vision is so compelling that I'm just being pulled to it, right? It really makes sense. And that's why I think the power also of finding the right mentors, finding people around you, but also finding people in books, in audio programs who just went to where you want to be way ahead of you, right? They've already accomplished it. You can learn all the steps on the journey. Why not? What's the point of reinventing the wheel? If I I'm not a very good cook. I can make scrambled eggs and I can make smoothies. That's what I can. I can make sandwiches. I can. My girlfriend, she's a very good cook, thankfully. But if I wanted to learn how to cook something, if I went into that kitchen and tried to play around with different ingredients, I would mess it up for probably 45 days straight, right? I just don't have that. All my family, they know how to do it. I just cannot cook. So why waste my time and everyone else's time? And mental health, eating stuff that's not that good, right? If I can simply go on YouTube and I can find a recipe that's well explained, and I can just follow the damn recipe. And somebody may say, well, but then you're just copying. You're not giving it your flavor. Wait a second. I still have the time later on to give it my own personal flavor. But what is the point if I don't have the foundation? First, you got to build the building blocks, right? So first I follow the recipe, I learn the basics, then I can start playing around. I think the same thing applies to life. You want to be somewhere, you want to do something, whatever it is you want to do, find people who already are doing that. Learn from them. There's so many books, never ceases to amaze me, especially now in a lockdown, how people say that they are bored. Dude, I have like, I have hundreds of books I want to read right now. And I'm just like, it's almost like painful when I'm like, I want to read all of them at the same time, and I want to write, and I want to learn this. There's so many things you can do in your life. And to know that somebody lived their life and they gained experience over 20, 30, 40 years, they distilled the best information, the best techniques, strategies, tools, and they put it in a book, and you can consume it within a day. It's ridiculous. Same thing applies to online courses, to audio programs, right? People just put their best golden nuggets in there. It's almost, it's such a shame when you don't use it, right? So yeah, I'm a big believer in, you got to educate yourself. I know, especially nowadays, more and more people say that Einstein was right. Einstein has this famous quote. He says that anybody who reads too much falls into the lazy habits of thinking. And I agree with this to a certain extent, right? If you read too much, if you just listen to other people, don't think for yourself, you just become like a mixture of different people's ideas, but you're not truly yourself. I get it. But again, you got to build a foundation, right? In order to think for yourself. So unless you've already read at least 100 books, where's the foundation, right? So what I always suggest is read as much as you can, consume information, but also take time every single day to reflect. Take time just to sit down. Sun is shining, sit down on your balcony or just open the window, get some sun, and for half an hour be silent and don't think about anything. Or think, but think productively, think in a positive manner, right? Yeah, man, this is powerful stuff.
Definitely. No, I absolutely love it. It's just a very interesting time right now, and I completely agree with you what you just said, especially when it comes to the books. You know, you take an online course or a book, sometimes that's 10 years of somebody's experience in a day that you've just consumed that person's mind, all of their mistakes, all of their trials, all of the things that they've struggled with within a day or 2 days. You've just basically figured out how to not make those mistakes. And I like the recipe. I like the recipe example. I actually got explained that to one of my previous mentors years ago, and it was about a guy that bakes a cake. It was like John who bakes the cake, John the baker. He has this incredible chocolate cake, and you can either try to replicate the cake and try and make your own cake, or you can just follow the damn recipe that's right in front of you. Like, you can make other cakes at a later stage, or you can do something different. But everybody wants to be a hero, and what we do as humans, we want to tweak and we want to adapt and we want to put our own twist on everything before we even build the foundations. And I think that is what holds a lot of us back. If we just stick to the basics, we talk about this in trading a lot. You know, we want to do all of the difficult things, all of the intricate little details before we just look at the simple mechanics of any strategy, when that's where people hold themselves back. And we've seen a lot of success in people that just stick to the real basic things. And I think you can apply that into lots of areas of life. But yeah, man, we're not getting bored right now. There's so many things, there is so many things you can do and listen to and watch. Yeah, we're definitely not getting bored right now. So Jimmy, what's next for you then for these? How would you say that for people right now? You know, the big thing is for me is thinking about how am I going to come out on the other side of COVID-19 in terms of resourcefulness, strength, goals. For you, you've shared a lot of things. I'd be curious to know for the audience listening, what do you think someone could do right now to really gain perspective and come out on the other side? You know, a completely different person.
Okay, so what I would say, and of course, every single situation is different. Everyone has different circumstances. What I'm going to say will apply to everyone to a lower or higher extent, but it is going to apply. What I would say is take some time to recalibrate, to pause for a moment, reflect on your life, reflect on the things you managed to accomplish already that seemed impossible before, right? Maybe some things that you take for granted. You got the job, or you started that business, or you learned a new language, or you're sitting next to a woman or a guy that you wanted to be with before seemed impossible. Now you're together. Think about all of those things that you managed to accomplish. Really think about your vision, where you want to be, because that's, pondering about what you managed to accomplish will make you realize that you are capable of more than you thought you were, right? So that's the first step. You got to build that confidence that things are possible for you. Then really think about your vision. And even if you have been doing those vision exercises, it's always good to redo them. I keep doing those. It's not like vision is set. You keep adjusting your vision, right? Like my book, for example, I was in the middle of writing a book about confidence. But in the middle of this crisis, so many people have been messaging me, hey man, I want to build a course. How do I do it? I'm like, wait a second. If everyone is asking me about building an online course, I clearly have to write a book about it. So I put the other project on pause. I started this one. I already have almost 20,000 words. I'm just keep going on like crazy, right? So you got to adapt, but you have to have that vision. So think about the vision, then go backwards and ask yourself, okay, what are some of the goals I have to accomplish then based on that vision? And then look at the current situation. And what I like to do is when I approach goal setting, objective setting, I like to imagine myself, say 2 months from now or 3 months from now, and ask myself, what had to happen? What had to happen over the last few months? So like my life has become amazing. What had to happen? What's that one or two things? And really envision yourself, to make it extremely specific, that it's July now or August, right? Maybe it's August and like it's almost the end of the summer and you're looking back, what needed to happen? Look at your body, how your body looks like. What do you have in your head? How many books have you read? Or how many pages have you written? Or maybe how many mentors you've reached out to, right? Have you set up a business or not? Like, think about what had to happen and then ask yourself, how would you feel if you knew that when you look back, it's August and you're looking back at the last few months and you know that you spent 257 hours watching Netflix and you spend another 300 hours of just fucking around, just sitting and not doing anything, checking social media. How does it make you feel that you wasted your life doing that? And then on the flip side, think about some of the things you could be doing that will make you feel tremendous. How would it feel if you look back thinking, I can't believe over the last few months, every single day, I did at least 100 push-ups. It's ridiculous. Or I can't believe that a few months ago in April, I didn't speak any Russian. And now I speak basics of Russian. How crazy is that, right? I could give you 1,000 of examples now, but I think it's important to approach it like this and then pick something. Don't pick 20 different things because you will not follow through. If you try to change your life all at once, it's not going to happen. Pick just one thing, one, maybe two things, and create a positive obsession, right? For example, what's happening for me right now? I'm writing this book. I could be doing a bunch of different things now. I could be focusing on a variety of projects, right? In fact, I keep getting offers from different people to do various projects, and I say no to most of them. And I know that if I say yes, it can bring more opportunities. But the book became my obsession. I'm looking at this board and I see it. And I'm like, this fucking book has to happen. I bought this poster. I have a poster in the toilet that says write. And there's this old typewriter on a poster, black and white.
Yeah.
And dude, the thing is, the reason I didn't put it here, because I know if I see the poster all the time, it's going to become part of the environment. But because I go to the toilet just several times a day, whenever I go in there, when I look at it, it's like a trigger, right? And it's almost like I see it and then I'm like, wait, what I've been doing over the last hour? And if I realize that I've been just dicking around on social media, just fucking checking wall and checking comments, I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And then I come back and I write. So become obsessed over something. Pick one or two things, become obsessed, create systems that make it impossible for you to fail. Whatever it has to be. If you wanna start exercising, create accountability. Let people know what you're gonna do. Even if it means that you're gonna film it and you're gonna publish it, so people know you exercise, that's fine. Let it be. Get a body where you set up a time and you do a video call and you bang out push-ups or squats or whatever it is, other calisthenics together. Set the time every day at this time. We are working out for 1 hour and you jump on a call. Now it's no longer you letting yourself down, it's you letting your body down, or a group of bodies, right? So it's about making an obsession and creating systems and accountability, and just doing something every single day, right? Every single day, building that habit. So yeah, man, we could talk about it for a long time, but this is it. It's actually very simple. It's actually very, like, after this call, guess what I'm gonna do? Look, the sun is like, you see behind me, right? I don't need to turn my laptop. The sun is shining. It's beautiful outside. But what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna go outside unless I bang out 1,000 words. After this video, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna bang out 1,000 words. And that's it. And then I'm gonna update my accountability group, and then I'm gonna enjoy the sun. So my incentive is to do it efficiently. And in the evening, I'm gonna do another session, right? So it's like, yeah, man, fucking obsession.
Yeah.
Be fucking obsessed. I always tell people, you know, look at those who are in hospital right now. There's so many people, fucking 1.5 million cases of coronavirus. I know many of them are mild, but the fact is there are hundreds of thousands of cases where it's not mild, right? People really feel that they have a flu. There are thousands of people in hospitals right now from corona, but also way more people from other diseases, right? There are old people out there who, when they are getting sick, they know that they are not getting better, right? Like for us, we are very fortunate. If I get sick, I know I'm getting better. But imagine when you are 85 years old and when you are sick, you kind of know that it may get a little bit better for a while, but overall it's not getting better. It's going to only get worse till the end. It must be a really, really straight, it's hard even to put it in words, but it must be a really weird feeling to have. So I think we should be grateful for what we have. We're still young. I presume anybody watching this, you're probably below 60 years old, right? If you are watching this, be grateful for what you have. And I feel like it's almost like not living your life to the fullest now, knowing that you have what you have, not embracing your passions, not going after it big time, not fucking smashing your dreams, not building those positive habits, is almost like spitting on that person who is suffering right now, because they would give fucking everything they have to be in your situation. They would give everything. And I have to share with you something. Recently I talked to my friend Christina. So Christina Manlakiani, she's the co-founder of Mind Valley, very, very successful company. We had a live call. She calls it the Honest Conversations. Really good, really enjoyed it. And I shared with her a story of my friend from Poland. And one time she told me that she felt insecure about her body. She's a beautiful girl, but she felt insecure. And I took her for this visualization where I basically made her imagine being in a hospital next to people who are really suffering, older people who are crippled, who will never get better. And I told her, imagine you trying to explain to that person dying in a fucking bed how bad it is for you that your knee is a little bit crooked, right? Oh my God. Yes, I know I'm beautiful and young, but my knee is a little bit crooked. Come on. And when I took her for that visualization, she realized, what am I whining about? Just get your shit together, go after it, live this life, because it's fucking short. Like life is ending 1 second at a time. It's going to end eventually, and it's going to end sooner than we think, right? So just making the most of every minute, man. It is what it is.
Yeah, I love that. I love the detail as well. And what you can really take from that, which I'm sure you will have, is the level of perspective. And that's a very powerful visualization of what you've done there for her, because that's what we don't realize. You know, when we're not used to seeing that kind of stuff, Jimmy, I think sometimes it's hard for people to relate, and that's why you have to give them that perspective shift. So what's helped me, you know, and I shared this story at the conference about seeing the guy with you know, no legs on the skateboard, fingerless gloves, like selling corn for his family. And I'm gonna sit there and complain that I'm tired. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that.
Can you share the story? But please share the story. This is a great story, dude.
Yeah. So essentially, this is in the Middle East. This is in Syria, by the way. So, you know, like war-torn stuff. And I'm going along, and I'm looking around, and I'm seeing all these people, you know, walking around, and I see this guy on a skateboard, and he's got one of these like ropes attached to the skateboard thing, and it's like a big, like, crate of corn that he's selling, and he's just selling it on the street. He's got those fingerless gloves on, and I realized, I was like, he's got no legs, and he's like pulling himself like this on the floor, pulling himself along. He's just selling it. People are coming, just normal. No one feels sorry for him because they obviously know him and stuff like that. And they've seen lots of people like him and her and stuff. And it made me realize this guy's like smiling, he's happy, he's doing that. And then I asked, around, and I knew about the story. And I realized that he does this every day for his family. He literally goes out every day for his family to sell that corn because he has to survive. And I thought, wouldn't it be so easy for someone like that who's got no legs to just be at home? But yeah, he goes every day and he's out there just making the most of it. So it's like, how can I complain seeing that at like 10, 11 years old? So what that's done is that, especially in the trading space as well, we become very soft when, things don't happen for a couple of years. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not a full-time trader yet. And we get upset with ourselves. Like, what opportunity do we have? There's kids in Africa that would kill to just have an opportunity to go into a library and pick up a few books and read something. Like the perspective has to change. I think that conversation has to change in the world. And I think with what's happening right now with COVID-19 and people getting sick and things like that, I pray and I hope that it gives people a perspective shift, that the resources that you have right now are incredible. People are complaining that they only get to go out once a day to go for a walk. Oh, it's terrible. I only get to go out once a day. But some people don't even have food today. And you're complaining that you only get to go out of your house once a day. I think the perspective shift needs to change. And I really hope 100%. This is a wake-up call for many people, because you can tremendously change your life when the perspective changes and that conversation changes in your mind. It really, really does.
100%, man. I got to tell you, my grandpa, for example. So my grandpa was fighting the Second World War. When the war started, he was 13 years old, 13. Wow. And initially they wanted to get him into the German army because he was on the territory that was kind of in between. So he ran off because he didn't want to fight for Hitler, right? He ran off, he joined the Polish army, and he fought for 6 fucking years in a war. Some of the things he had to do in the city where my mom was born, there's this bridge, and he would go underneath the bridge carrying bombs to the other side. And he was a teenager, right? And one thing is, only now I can appreciate it because he died when I was a teenager. So, and because he had stroke and he couldn't speak properly, I could never have a proper conversation. I wish I had. And that's why I always tell people, write a fucking book, make an online course, write a journal, do something. So if when you are gone, your kids, your grandkids can get a glimpse into your thoughts. But one thing I noticed is that he was always very cheerful. So he had, after the war, he had stroke and he had a heart attack. So, half of his body, he couldn't move. He was paralyzed, semi-paralyzed. So he couldn't write properly. He couldn't speak, but he was always cheerful, always happy, always cheerful. And I'm just thinking, you fight in a war when you are a teenager. And nowadays we became so fucking soft as a society that if your internet goes down for 1 hour, you hate the world. Like it's apocalypse is coming. Come on, man, get your shit together, right? I travel a lot, right? So often I see this on planes. You get into a plane and they announce that the plane is delayed by 10 minutes. People are getting pissed off. In the meantime, I put on my headphones and I'm just looking around in awe. How is it even possible that in a second, in those 10 or whatever, 20 minutes, we're going to take off and we will literally teleport ourselves to a different continent? How crazy is that? Now, I didn't have to create this. This has been created for me before. And I think this generation tends to forget about it. Some of us experience war, but the vast majority of people never really experience any hardship on a global scale, like a pandemic, like a war. And we are so soft, not realizing that we should be grateful. And many of those things we take for granted now. The fact that we do have the internet, that we have healthy food, that we have medicines, we have all of those things. Well, we didn't have to work for it. It's our grandparents and grandparents. It's all of those people who are already gone. They built this for us. And it's one of those things that it sounds simple, but in a way, so many of us never think about. I know certainly myself, it took me a while to really realize it. Because I used to feel some sense of entitlement in the past, I used to feel, oh, I deserve this, I deserve that. But then I started really thinking about it, and I realized, sure, you know, like, you are already good enough, you deserve that, you deserve to have the opportunities, to have the freedom. But hey, apart from that, I mean, you just gotta feel grateful for what you have, and then take action. Nothing will just come to you like this. Fucking hard work. If good things in life were easy, everybody would be a happy millionaire, right? Eating avocados. Come on, it's not the case, really. You know, this is what it is, man.
Yeah,
and
no, true.
Curious
Very
people,
true.
like, we have 72 people. That's really cool, guys. I want to say I really appreciate, like, that you guys stuck around, because we have more people now than we had at the beginning. So the fact that you're tuning into it, that's amazing. I see some cool comments. There's so many comments. Fuck, we're gonna go through them afterwards. It's gonna be awesome. So many comments, man. But I want to hear from you guys, like, what are your thoughts on this? And please share. Like, actually, I'm curious to hear. Let's make it more specific. For each one of you watching this, I'm curious to hear about one thing you're really grateful for right now that you haven't thought about for a while. Like, think about something you could be grateful for that you've been taken for granted for so long that it wouldn't even occur to you, and now you just had this download, the aha moment. I'm really curious to hear.
Yeah, that in is a girl called Fatima. She's actually got COVID-19.
Oh, really?
And she works for the NHS. And she's actually in the chat right now, and she's going through it. Such a very, very strong individual. And that's really, really great to see you in the chat, that you've done it. It would be easy right now to be feeling sorry for yourself, just laying in bed. So I'd be curious to know how you're feeling. The community has sent a lot of prayers to her. And I think that this is the reality. We don't realize how close it is until we see someone who's actually got it, and we think, oh wow, like someone's got it. Someone's actually been affected by it. So I'd be curious to know how you're feeling.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think, because COVID-19 is one of the is the pink elephant in the room. We can talk about a variety of things, but ultimately it's on everyone's mind, right? As the stats keep going up, 1.5 million, who knows, maybe it's already 1.7. It's gonna keep going up for a while, being realistic. And I feel like one way to approach it, at least that's how I like to approach it, feel compassion for people who are experiencing troubles now, whether it's losing a job, business going down, getting sick, loved ones dying. I mean, lots of terrible things are happening. But at the same time, most of them are beyond your control, right? So you can choose to be negative, or you can choose to feel compassion, but also at the same time, focus on the positive, so you can raise the overall positivity in this world, right? Like, a good example I always like to give is that, if, say, Mark, let's say you feel down. Let's say you had a really bad fight with your girlfriend, for example, right? And you feel really down, and it's been going on for weeks. And then we talk about it. Well, if I tell you for 10 minutes how bad it is, I am, and I feel you, fuck, I know it's a terrible situation to be in. Yeah. On the one hand, yes, I'm connecting with you, I'm bonding, but I'm not really raising your level of energy. What's much better is start off with connecting, with bonding. Man, I get you. I feel you. I had the same. Talk about it for a few minutes, but guess what? We got to switch the fucking gears. We got to switch the gears. Last night, I called this one guy. I'm not going to mention the name because he may be watching this, but also I don't want people to know him, that it's him specifically. But if you are watching this, you know that I'm talking about you, right? So I called him up. I've been trying to help him over the last 1.5 years, and he's been struggling a lot with creating a business. And big part of it was lack of self-esteem, low level of self-esteem, low level of confidence. So whenever he would want to take action, right, he would procrastinate, and then he would feel so bad about procrastinating that bad feeling would prevent him from taking further action. So it's this downward spiral. And because he has a bunch of issues now, all types of issues, and he needs to get his shit together, I called him up yesterday and I gave him the real talk. And I told him, look, I get you. I know the situation's tough, But then I told him, dude, no more fucking excuses. You got to do what you got to do. This is what you got to do. And we had a very honest, very rough, in a way, talk. But at least now I know that's going to create some result. If I just called him up and I just told him for 1 hour how bad it is and how sorry I feel for him, guess what? Now he feels the validation from me. Oh yeah, so it's not my fault, so I can feel sorry for myself. Guess what? He will keep feeling sorry for himself. But what I did instead is I told him, look, forgive yourself. What happened, happened. We all make mistakes. I certainly made a shit ton of mistakes in my life. Nobody's perfect, but you got to fucking move on. And if you make a decision now to move on, and 1 week from now, you tell me you haven't done what you were supposed to do, that's your fucking fault. Because now you have a choice. You don't have a choice what's going to happen, what's going to happen a week from now, because that's already gone. But you have a choice what's going to happen 1 hour from now, 1 week from now, 1 month from now. So I want you now to get your shit together and do what you have to do. And like, you have to say this to people. You have to. So I think this situation, to kind of tie it back to Corona, I think, especially when you deal with family members and friends who are negative or who are panicking, who are just overwhelmed by the chaos of the situation, of course, appreciate it, appreciate the fact, be compassionate, but rather than trying to get down to the same level, try to spark positivity, try to open their eyes to new possibilities, right? Try to make them realize that maybe they are not looking at the big picture. Maybe there's something good they can see in a situation. Never forget my good friend, and I think Kasia may be watching this because she said she wants to jump on board. So Kasia, by the way, so her Instagram, you should check her out. Kasia, extend yourself. Just, especially guys watching this, Kasia, extend yourself on Instagram. She's a pole dancer and an acrobat. And the shit she does is just unbelievable. She does like those double splits where your legs don't go like this, but they kind of go like this, where it's ridiculous what she does. Amazing stuff. And one time she broke her leg. And I never forget, I was in Canary Islands during my mastermind, and I wasn't feeling at my best. I don't know, something happened, but I wasn't feeling that good. And she told me that she broke her leg. And then she explained that she actually thinks it may be a good thing for her because she lives this really hectic life and she keeps moving around. And now she, in a way, has an excuse to just sit at home and to recalibrate and maybe spend more time with the family and to rethink life. And I'm thinking, wait a second. Before the call, I was kind of internally whining to myself about that, some of the things that were happening to me, which were not that big of a deal, by the way. And now she's telling me that she broke her leg and they'll need to put some screws in her leg and then take them out. And they took them out like a few weeks ago. So it's been like this process took like over a year. And this can negatively impact her career of being a pole dancer, doing acrobatics, all of those things. And she's telling me that she can see positive in it. Come on, dude. So that's when I looked at myself and I said to myself, Jimmy, stop being a little whiny bitch. Just, simple. And so I think those things put things in perspective. Another thing I want to mention is I recently spoke to this guy I met in LA. His name is Jeff Griffin, and you can find him on Facebook, Griffin Motivation. Really interesting character. So I met him. He was in a wheelchair, right? And we met at this big house party, this gathering. It was really cool setting, Hollywood Hills, amazing. And this guy rolls up out of nowhere on his wheelchair. And there are those like a few little stairs, in the living room. So we helped him to get the wheelchair down, and then he walked down by himself, like holding some people, but he moved his legs by himself. And I immediately, I just want to know his story. I felt his vibe, great energy, so we start talking. And we just kept talking and talking and talking, and then we jumped on a call after. Great dude. Turns out he fell off 12 meters from a scaffolding. He was a professional football player. He fell off, broke his back. The doctors told him, you'll never walk again, man. Forget about it. You'll never walk again. So he feels miserable, trying to recover in the hospital, destroyed, depressed. One day goes to the canteen of the hospital, sits down, eating his food, tears going down into his soup. And there's a guy who sits in front of him and he says in this mumbling voice, why are you crying, dude? Why are you crying, dude? Right? And he looks at him, and in an instant, he told me his life changed because he looked at himself, and the guy says, why are you crying, dude, right? And he's looking at himself, yeah, I am crying. Why am I crying? because the guy who said it was half of his body was paralyzed. Then Jeff looked around, he sees another guy on a wheelchair, not being able to move anything, paralyzed with some tube. And he realized, I'm probably the most fortunate guy here in this entire room. What the fuck am I crying about? And he said that changed his life. And like, his story is just ridiculous. He wrote a book about it. He called the book I Am Possible. He says people say impossible. He says I am possible, right? That's a reframe. So there are lots of stories of people like that. We could spend 10 hours. Bear Grylls breaking the back and climbing fucking Everest. Fucking tens of thousands, millions of stories like this. You got to find those stories. You got to allow those stories to inspire you. You got to always allow those stories to recalibrate and for you to realize it could have been worse. Like you already have more than enough. Whatever it is that you're experiencing, just somebody who have less than you, right? It could have been worse. So do the best with what you already have.
Yeah, 100%. No, very well said. And these stories have inspired me through the years as well. And I love those ones that you said. Isn't it crazy how sometimes it can be just a defining moment like that? You know, what are you crying for? We're all going to have those moments in life. And I think if you can connect with that on a deeper level of what's happening now, I think it's going to be huge. I think even this live alone, this is what I really wanted to get across by catching up with you, Jimmy. You know, it's been a while and I've been meaning to catch up with you anyway. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to share these kind of thoughts, because remember, this doesn't just come natural for people to look inwards and look at gratitude, because people complain and they complain. And I really hope from all the things that you've shared today that people can realize that, where do I want to be? Where, like you said, where do you want to be in the next 2 months, or when it comes down to June, July? Do you want to realize you've watched all those hours of Netflix, as Jimmy said? Or do you want to realize that you've worked on yourself, even if it's an hour, 2 hours a day, on something that you maybe didn't have the confidence to work on, and be proud of yourself that you're moving forward? Pick a couple of things and just get it done. Look at your perspective. There's people in much worse situations, and you can do a lot more with what you actually have. And we've done that. And again, it's changed our lives. So no, it's going to be an interesting time.
And Mark, one important thing, I think anybody watching this, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to limit the amount of exposure to news every day.
100%.
I see people wake up in the morning and they start checking news. And I tell you what, I'm a pretty positive guy and I'm pretty good at reframing negative situations. But I have to tell you, I had a point of time, because we were planning our little meetup, wanted to catch up, right? And then we couldn't because of the flights, right? So at that time, I had to check the news. I needed to know what was happening because of the flights, right? If they're closing the borders or not. And I noticed, dude, when I was checking news several times a day, it impacted my state in such a negative way. Even me, right? I know what's happening to me. I try to stay positive. I know how to reframe. Still it impacts me, right? So it's something that, of course, you want to stay up to date, right? I'm not saying you can't do it, but at least don't do it first thing you do when you wake up in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, like, commit yourself that you will not check news for at least 5-6 hours. Just don't do it. Knowing how many new cases are there, how many people died, will not positively impact your life. You don't need that information, right?
Exactly.
What you want to do is you want to wake up and you want to be proactive. You don't want to be going through life thinking about all the bullshit happening around you. You want to be clear so you can focus on your goals. So again, going back to what we discussed before, whatever your goal is, whether it's physical fitness or writing or producing, or maybe you got DJ equipment, you want to produce music, or you learn new language or set up a business, or maybe trading. Well, then rather than being reactive, focus on that first hours in the morning. Don't even check your text, don't check WhatsApp, don't check messengers, don't check social media. Create that deep work situation. And later on, if you want to see what's happening, great, do it. But at least you know that your day is already a win. But the biggest mistake you can make is you start reading news in the morning. You know how it goes. Open one tab, you read something. Then there is a big headline. So you're curious because this politician got sick. So now you want to read about that. Then there is another one. Then there's a video. And 1 hour later, you realize you're still reading about Corona. And you are afraid. And you are in a state like the world is ending. Now try to be productive now. Try to be productive now with this state. Try to go out there and do something bigger than yourself. you will not do it, because in your mind, subconsciously, the world is ending anyway. So why would you even do anything, right?
Exactly.
Super important is one of the most simple things you can do, and actually one of the best things you can do. Just don't watch the fucking news all the time, right? Take the first half of the day for yourself. That's it.
Exactly. Watching the news every day is like trying to climb a mountain with 100 kg dumbbells in your backpack. It's just dragging you down. Like I think I was watching something. I think it was on Impact Theory on YouTube a while ago, and it was something about the news. If you watch the news, there's a 30% chance that will impact your day negatively, right? That's just normal news. That's just normal crap, frequency, negative tones, all of that kind of stuff. Imagine watching coronavirus every day. That's probably 60 or 70%. So you've essentially almost set yourself up for failure every day by checking the news every morning. It's like a 70% chance, most likely, that you're going to have an unproductive, crappy day. So just remove that distraction and then go to a point of gratitude, because you can't control it anyway. What you see on the news does not impact what's going to happen to you that day. So just focus on yourself and just get honing. As traders, we know exactly what to do. We focus on our morning routines a lot, meditation, focusing on the charts. We know what we need to do. But again, making it a habit of checking every day is not going to serve you. So very well said, Jimmy. That's really good. Is there anything else to sort of finish up? Any kind of last words, Jimmy, that you would like to share with the guys? How long have we been on this live?
I've been just checking, almost 2 hours.
That's insane. We thought we was going to jump on for an hour. This is just blown by like that.
I mean, whenever we talk, right? When we jump on a call with Ebe, 3 of us, we just keep rolling. It's always a good conversation, man. And I'm just happy to see that people are still tuning in. Man, the final words. There are many, but I think the main thing I want to say is, I think Tony Robbins used to say that knowledge is not power, it's potential power. It's only power when you use it. And hopefully, whoever you are watching this, because we shared so many different things, you got some value out of it, even if it's one golden tip or one strategy. And just because we are doing this doesn't mean we are some gurus and we know everything, because we don't. We are just humans. But I think real learning happens when different minds come together. But that's why people love podcasts so much. That's why people watch Joe Rogan all the time, because they can just tune in and make their own interpretation. So the reason we did it is not to necessarily tell you, hey, you should do X, Y, and Z, because there is no right or wrong. They're just different approaches. But I personally hope that our conversation has been stimulating, and you felt like, even though you were not voicing your opinions and perspectives, I hope that you felt like you were a part of the conversation, and that it triggered something in your mind, new ideas, new thoughts, right? And if there is anything, any aha, quote unquote, moment that came to you, any realization, any breakthrough, please let us know. And I'm also really curious to hear what you enjoyed the most, right? Because I think we're going to do more of those calls in the future, because it's fun. Because I figured whenever we catch up, I mean, we may as well just bring a bunch of people on board. And so I'm curious to hear, what did you enjoy the most? What you wish we talked more about? Any questions you have? And this way we can calibrate to also serve you better. So thank you.
Definitely. No, I think very well said, Jimmy. It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure to have you on. And what I would love as well is guys, if you're listening, let us know after this video in the comments, drop a detailed comment of what you did take away, as Jimmy said. It gives us more of an insight as to what you would like to know in the future, maybe something we can talk about more, something that you wish that you had, even a question. Let us know in the comments, because we're going to read all of them, and I'm sure we're going to be doing more of these. But Jimmy, it's been an absolute pleasure taking your time out to tune in, the value, all of the stories. I'm very, very confident, even for myself listening, that there's going to be a lot of shifts happening. And I think the biggest thing here is perspective and accountability, and just be grateful for the resources that you have right now. So I really appreciate you tuning in and catching up as always. It's always a pleasure. 2 hours just flew by. It's been a pleasure, man. I'm looking forward to catching up again. And you enjoy the rest of your day. I know you're going to smash the words for the book as well.
Got to do what you got to do, man. Hey, pleasure. Thank you so much. Guys, have a blast today. And why not make this day epic, right? Most of you are watching this from the UK, probably Europe. It's not even 3 p.m., right? Even if you watch it from Asia, it's still early evening. Why not make this day a huge win? So do something to make it a win. Man,
let's get it
done. Class, yeah, let's get it done.
Take care.
Get the writing done.
See you guys.